Congress is back in session. Could this round be as exciting as the last? Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jason Cannon and my co-host as always is Matt Cole. Congress is currently in its second session of the 119th Congress, with the House of Representatives having reported to work on Monday. The first half of this legislative session has been an exciting one for trucking, highlighted by the repeal of various controversial emissions regulations. By comparison, the rest of this session might be a snoozer, unless you like lawsuits.
Fireworks are likely to come from EPA's potential rollback of the Endangerment Finding and greenhouse gas standards, which drew some spirited comments during a recent listening session.
Obviously, just by the numbers, the largest percentage of commenters at the listening session were against rolling back GHG Phase 3 and Endangerment Finding. But I think we all know the writing's on the wall, right? I think we all anticipate that the EPA is going to rescind greenhouse gas Phase 3, and I would say in all likelihood is going to rescind the Endangerment Finding. And if that happens, of course, EPA can't regulate greenhouse gases at all. So I think Congress is going to just let that happen, and the EPA will go that route. They'll get sued, right? We all know that. And then it'll work its way through the courts, whether or not the endangerment rescission is lawful or not. So I don't expect Congress to tackle anything on that end.
Most major trucking groups have already asked the EPA to delay implementation of its heavy-duty NOx rules from 2027 to 2031. There's several layers to that rule, some that cut emissions limits and some that require OEMs to extend warranties and useful life limits. Those measures have put fleets and OEMs at odds. By the way, on NOx, as you probably know, there are a couple items in there that some of the fleets and associations, not only they want the extended warranty and the useful life rescinded, taken out, because those are cost mechanisms, but they also ask for the criteria level to be changed, right, to go from 0.200 to 0.035. The CFC hasn't taken a position on the criteria level. CFC thinks that's really not our fight, that's the OEM's fight. It's my understanding that the OEMs are not asking for the criteria level to be changed. As far as I know, their position is if it goes to 0.305 as planned, will accommodate. So that will be interesting to see how NOx plays out, because you have a difference opinion between the fleets and the OEMs. If I were betting, I would bet that the EPA is going to change the levels as well, but I'm not sure. And then they will most certainly be sued if they change the levels, without a doubt.
If there's good news in all the pushing and shoving over zero emissions regulations, it's that tax credits for reduced emissions solutions like natural gas and renewable diesel have been extended, so trucking does have clean and cheaper alternatives to battery electric.
Congress passed the tax credits for those other renewable sources, right? RNG and diesel. So that's another incentive. So absolutely, in my opinion, and I think you're seeing in the fleets, I think they're already starting to pivot towards those other lower emission powertrains. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity for those markets and to penetrate a greater market percentage of RNG and renewable diesel. I think it's a huge opportunity. The 15 liter is obviously very important in a lot of the applications. So I think having that back in the marketplace, and from what I hear, very well performing 15 liters. So I think it's a little bit of both.
All the potential litigation over emissions and equipment inserts more uncertainty around regulations that are seemingly constantly under fire, leaving an entire industry wondering what it should or what it can do next.
So they're a tough spot. Fleets are a tough spot. And obviously, what are we in the 13th quarter in a row of the freight recession? So any sort of cost increase under the NOx rule, which would include the extended warranty, the useful life provisions of the NOx rule, that's going to add around, depending on which OEM you talk to, $15,000 to $25,000 of cost. Well, if you're a fleet in today's environment, you're going to defer that acquisition cost, right? So you're not going to do a pre-buy. You're not going to do those things. It's just the financials don't work. So it does create pressure. And that's why it's really critical that some of these issues get resolved sooner rather than later, whether it's NOx, whether it's GHG Phase 3. I mean, the CRAs and the rescission of the ACT waiver, I don't see any way in the world that CARB wins that lawsuit. I just don't see it. I mean, right in the CRA statute, it says these are non-judicially reviewable, right? So even put aside whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent, statute says they're non-judicial. So I'll see how CARB wins on ACT. GHG Phase 3, I think that the EPA would have a strong basis if they just repealed GHG Phase 3. The endangerment finding, probably a little more subject to litigation. And if they revise the NOx rule properly, I think that not only would it stand up to litigation, maybe they would file litigation. So we'll see. But it does create uncertainty for the fleets. But I would say if there's any uptick in the market, in the freight market, I think you'll see more normal buying patterns than you saw over the last 2 years. Tariffs are problematic. That needs to be resolved. But I do think if you see a meaningful or even a slight change in the freight rates, that you'll start to see more normal buying patterns.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter and stay up to date on the latest in trucking industry news and trends. If you have any questions or feedback, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can catch us again next week.